People frequently claim that immigrants and poor black families are living off the system. They're on welfare. They're mooching. But here is the truth. The majority of people on public assistance in the United States of America are white, and most of them have jobs. They just don't make enough money to survive without a little bit more because wages are low, rent is high, a lot of jobs don't come with benefits anymore. You can't have a job without a cell phone. You can't even find a job without the internet.
The last 20 years, it has increased. The number of people receiving public benefits of some sort or another has increased amongst one particular demographic, and that is amongst white people. 20 years ago, 61% of all the people receiving public benefits of some kind in the United States were white people. Today, or as of 2022, or as the last census, 76.2% of all the people receiving some form of public benefit were white people.
Family, did you know that white folks benefit more from welfare in America than black people? For the longest time, they've always associated black folks with poverty. They've always stereotyped black people, saying that black folks are lazy and they do not work hard and they only depend on welfare. Family, in this video, you will notice that that has always been a lie, because both white and black folks are going to debunk this fact and let us know who actually depend on welfare more than the other. And family, you will notice that white people are actually the benefiters of welfare more than any other group in America. Family, I want us to dive quick into the video for you to be able to understand this fact. Once the video is done, we will get back and do a critical analysis about the same. Let's watch this video together, family.
In America, there is a misconception about who is on welfare. Now, let me just say this. There is no one program in the United States that constitutes welfare. There are many social programs in the United States that are part of what the United States calls the social safety net, which is really not much of a safety net at all when you consider the meager benefits that people receive. So what I've decided to do is look quickly at the statistics from the last census. Now, this holds true going back, but actually in the last 20 years, it has increased. The number of people receiving public benefits of some sort or another has increased amongst one particular demographic, and that is amongst white people. 20 years ago, 61% of all the people receiving public benefits of some kind in the United States were white people. Today, or as of 2022, or as the last census, 76.2% of all the people receiving some form of public benefit were white people. And the rest were people of color, 13%, people of Asian extraction, 6%, give or take, and people of Hispanic, somewhere down in the middle there. So let's just talk about what constitutes public benefits. So I'm going to read this list here, and this is what makes up all of welfare, if you will, in the United States. Medicaid, SNAP, WIC, free or reduced price school meals, SSI, TAANF, energy aid, rental subsidies, unemployment compensation, and assorted other programs. So 40 million people in the United States live in poverty, and that number approximately is the number of people who receive public benefits of some kind. And of course that varies when you include Social Security recipients, Medicare, etc., which is not it's an earned benefit. So I'm going to eliminate that for the moment. So of those people, the number of people receiving public benefits, welfare, if you will, some form of social program, social safety net support, as I said, 76.2% are whites. So I think this is important to remember when people start talking out of their ass
People have noticed that just about every democratic policy that white conservatives despise, they benefit most from. For example, white conservatives claim they despise federal government overreach. Well, 8 of the top 10 states that take federal tax dollars are conservative states. They'll tell you welfare is socialism and we need to end welfare. Well, white people have benefited more from welfare than any other demographic, while excluding black Americans. They'll tell you gun laws don't work because they don't keep us safe. Well, 16 of the top 17 states in gun death rates are conservative states who have almost no firearm legislation. They'll tell you government does not help when making healthcare affordable. Well, while 13 of the top 14 states in death rates by diabetes are conservative states, 193 Republicans voted against lowering the cost of insulin. They'll tell you they despise affirmative action. Well, affirmative action has benefited white women more than any other demographic. Studies show white conservatives don't hate these benefits, they just don't want black people to have access to them. Because when you've had privilege your whole life, equality feels like oppression.
Finally, you get to see the true America. The stipulation has always been that black people are lazy, that black people are on welfare. Well, guess what? A lot of poor white people in the red states are now crying that they're not getting the EBT money from the EBT cards. Why? Because they are on welfare. They have 7 and 8 kids. Now the truth is coming out since Trump has slashed funding for the EBT and the SNAP programs. You see how many white people now are on welfare. So all this mythical stuff about black people being on welfare, oh, it's the blacks, it's the blacks, it's the blacks. Now you've seen the real America, that it's not only black people on welfare, that there are a lot of white people on welfare also. There are a lot of white people, a lot of poor people living in those red states, and those red states that voted for Trump are now getting hit hard.
Facts. In 1935, Social Security was invented by Franklin D. Roosevelt. 85 to 90% of black families were excluded because they excluded major categories for workmanship in agriculture and domestic, and that's what black families made up of. So white families were able to experience wealth through Social Security, through savings for their retirement and building wealth through Social Security, whilst they had a 15-year head start on black families because blacks weren't able to get those programs until 1950. They weren't able to get those benefits. And in 1964, the SNAP was invented, and when white people were on SNAP in 1964, they were known as falling on hard times. But whenever black women or black families went on SNAP, they were considered lazy. Even the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, called black women welfare queens.
People frequently claim that immigrants and poor black families are living off the system. They're on welfare. They're mooching. But here is the truth. The majority of people on public assistance in the United States of America are white, and most of them have jobs. They just don't make enough money to survive without a little bit more because wages are low, rent is high, a lot of jobs don't come with benefits anymore. You can't have a job without a cell phone. You can't even find a job without the internet. But it's not poor people who are eating up the most dollars in public assistance. Nope, it's the middle class. It's people who can take mortgage deductions and, of course, corporations cashing in on subsidies. But nobody calls that a handout. SNAP, Medicaid, housing assistance, those aren't loopholes to help billionaires save some more money and line their pockets so that they can get more yachts or whatever they do with it. They're lifelines for millions of people. And here's the kicker. Those programs keep all of us safer and more stable. If you're mad that someone's getting help, maybe just look at why they need it, not just who they are. Think about this. A friend of mine said he grew up in a third world country, and he said that in those countries, petty theft and, pickpocketing and crimes like that are common because people have to do that to get enough money to buy food and to pay for a place to stay. That's going to happen in our country if we don't get curious about where the waste in our government really exists.
Government assistance was made for white people. The fact that the programs were made in 1935, in the 1930s, says it all right there, given the fact that black people were not even considered people under the law at that time. But I've really been doing some more research and reading, and I read an article and they were talking about how like up until like the 60s or 70s, black people really could not qualify for government assistance. And that is absolutely disheartening, being that now it hasn't even been 100 years later that black people are now the face of all racial stereotypes regarding government assistance in Section 8. Meanwhile, these same programs were never even made for us. Meanwhile, black people had to jump through hoops to get qualified. Meanwhile, people talk about black fathers not being in the home, and these same government institutions were not wanting the men to be there. Like, what the fuck?
If you're white and you had anyone in your family serve in the military in the past 400 or so years, you got welfare. The United States issued 500,000 land grants before it passed the Homestead Act, which means that...
So first, the face of poverty in reality looks very different than some people's perception.
Well, let me put a finer point on it. They think poverty is black and Latino and Hispanic people in this country, but poverty also includes a lot of white people in America.
This is true. White people use greater percentage of social welfare services, and white people benefit from DEI programs the most. Primarily white women entering the workforce after being home for years. They are the biggest participants in DEI programs. They're the biggest handout. So yeah.
Who uses welfare the most in each ratio? Tell it. I will gladly tell it. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. Segregation was ended in 1964. The Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. The Fair Housing Act outlawing redlining was passed in 1968. All of those result in an impact to economic stability. All of those rights were in place for white American men since 1776. That's 246 years, compared to less than 60 years for black Americans. So we have a 188-year head start compared to black Americans. And that's based on the laws. Let's talk about how systemic racism still exists in education, employment, our justice system, our healthcare system, and so.
Family, for so many years now, they've always related black people with poverty. The white supremacists, to be specific. They've always said that black folks are lazy. And family, right now you can already tell that that is a lie. They've always said that black people actually depend on welfare more than their white counterparts do. But family, I want us to be factual in this video. I want us to get to debunk these facts, from history. I'd want us to start from 1935, when Social Security was introduced. In the time, black people were not worthy, to get these welfare. Social Security was only meant for the white people. They denied black folks from getting these welfare. Social Security and blacks were excluded. Blacks were included from Social Security. Whites benefited from these and had a 15 years head start. I want us to start there. Let us forget about today. Let us take it back to 1935, when Social Security was introduced. Black people were not allowed to get these. 15 years later, I'm talking about the 50s, is when black people started accessing these benefits. That already tells you that black folks, that white people started benefiting from welfare earlier than even black people could actually access the same. When we move forward, in 1964, SNAP was invented. And white people were categorized as falling on hard times, and they used to get this SNAP so much, food stamp. And during the time, they used to say that black people were lazy and that they were categorized as categorized as people who are considered lazy. Even President Ronald Reagan called black women welfare queens. That black people only depend on welfare. Family, they're stereotyping black people. They want black people to feel less. They want black people to feel as if they are depending on this welfare than whites who are already flocking that area. Family, in America today, white people who have opportunities in the job sectors work and still get welfare, to support them because of the very high cost of living. Black people have always been toughened. Black people are used to struggling and finding their way, and creating solutions. If in 1935, black people were denied to get the social security, how did they survive in the time? Were they sleeping hungry? No, they were not. Black people still pushed. They found solutions to their problems at the time. They are saying right now that white people do not depend on welfare. I'd want us to check what has been trending online in the recent week. What is happening in Arkansas right now? Arkansas right now. There are lots of white farmers who are begging, the federal government for aid, for support financially, because they're afraid they'll be losing their farms soon. They're afraid that their farms are failing. The crop prices have crashed and cost of fertilizer, fuel, and equipment are skyrocketing. The very same people who are saying that they do not depend on welfare are asking the federal government right now, crying, asking for help because their farms are failing, because they cannot be able to sustain their farms due to the high tariffs. The same people who are saying they do not depend on welfare. Right now, they are begging the government, asking, for support, financial support in Arkansas to ensure that they do not lose their farms. They have lost market thanks to the government. Right now, they want funding to be able to sustain the farming business. The very same Americans who are saying that they do not depend on these welfare. Family, when you look at records rate, you'll notice that most white families actually get access, to this welfare more than black people do. They are privileged even in this sector. They are given that opportunity straight up compared to black counterparts. So when we hear them say that black people use welfare more, that is already a lie. Black people have been subjected to a lot of injustices over the years. Black people are used to pushing and finding solutions where even normal people would see there is no opportunity. Black folks would squeeze themselves and find a way that they can put food on the table. We've seen in the recent past, the cost of living in America has been high, and high each and every time. And when you look at in the internet, most white folks have been crying. Most white people have been asking for support from the government. They've been saying rent is high. Prices of common commodities like groceries very, very high. And most of these people who are saying do not depend on welfare were the most documented, crying on the internet, asking for help. At the same time, black people were bashing them and saying, yo, we are used to this. You all thought that you'll never feel, when the economy is high. You'll never feel when the prices are high. Look at you now. We are used to this. We do not get any support. Most of these people actually voted for Donald Trump thinking that their interests would be put to place. Right now, they are crying all over, asking for help. And at the same time, they are saying that black people are lazy and they actually depend on welfare. I'd want to ask one last question before I end this video. Let's say black people who are depending on welfare. Is welfare not for all Americans? Why is it a case when black people access the welfare that any other American is guaranteed to get? What's different with black people? What's with the jealousy that these people have for blacks? But now from a lot of statistics, it's proven, even from the videos we have posted, that white people actually depend on welfare more than any other person in America. Look at food stamps. Most of this section is flocked, with white folk. They want support from this sector. Family, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this video. Fam, in a special way, I'd request you to like the video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users. Lastly, kindly do consider subscribing to the channel. We are currently on the road to 50,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate if you all took your time to subscribe to the channel. The goal of the channel has always been to talk about Black history, Black empowerment, and tell Black stories the Black way. Because if we give the supremacists an opportunity to tell our stories, many a times our stories are whitewashed. Thank you, family. See you all in our next episode. Goodbye for now.